welcome once again to another edition of the Finance Forum with myself, Abdu-Raof Hanslo, and our special guest in studio, financial planning specialist, Mr. Mohammed Jaffer from Mojaf Financial Services, and we're speaking financial planning. So in the last few programs, we've been concentrating specifically on concepts surrounding financial advice and financial advisors, and how best to choose a financial advisor. In the next few parts of the series on financial planning, we're going to specifically be looking at financial planning as a whole, as well as unpacking the various concepts of financial planning. So let's get into the thick of things with my guest in the hot seat, Mr. Mohammed Jaffer. Assalamu alaikum to you, Mohammed.
Wa alaikum salam, Abdu-Raof, to you and our beloved viewers.
You know, whenever I sit in your company, I always get this feel I feel calm, for the mere reason that I know that my financial future is in good hands, and our viewers' financial future is in good hands with a financial planner. So, Mohammed, I think to kick off from the start, over the last few years, we've seen a huge revolution within the financial advice and financial intermediary services. The revolution coming from a cheap cologne and cheap suit outfit to a professional outfit now that basically depicts the best possible advice and the interest of the public or the client at hand. So I think to start it off is, could you possibly give us a synopsis, a brief synopsis? I can't ask for a brief synopsis, obviously, but a synopsis on basically what financial planning is.
Wow, Abdu-Raof, that is quite a loaded question, and it's not a one-sentence answer, because as you correctly said, back in the day, financial planning was dealt with very haphazardly. And as you said, it's the cheap suit, cheap cologne with the briefcase in the hand, knock on the door. We have moved far beyond that. Financial planning has now become a profession. It's become a professional profession where your financial advisor will be most probably be a qualified financial planner, a person with the relevant qualifications. The industry has moved from where it was to now equivalent to your accountant, your doctors, your attorneys in that category. In fact, the FASE Act, as you've said, the Financial Advisory and Intermediary Services Act, is moving into a direction where you need to have a B degree to be able to be a financial planner, and soon we will have, the bar has been raised every so often. So financial planning is not, as I always say, is not an event, it's a process. And financial planning is not specific to a person at a certain level of income or a certain level of needs, but it's actually needed by each and every individual. Because each and every person has got financial objectives. So to achieve your financial objectives, we need to have a financial plan. And within this plan, your short-term needs and goals will be needs to be seen to. Your medium and your long-term goals needs to be looked at. And during all this, we need to look at your risk appetite. What type of risk are you prepared to take when we deal with your investments? The current lifestyle and the type of lifestyle that you want to lead at the time of retirement, or be financially free at a certain time. Now, this doesn't just happen just like that. We need to then develop a realistic financial plan to get to that point. Now, Abdu-Raof, there's a whole process that you need to go through in achieving this. It's not just me sitting down with you and say, Abdu-Raof, on the back of a matchbox, and what do you want? What do you need to do? It's actually a whole process that we go through.
I think, Mohammed, sitting here and speaking to you and having so many people in that same hot seat that we've been speaking to, the one thing we realize is that there's obviously life cycles that one goes through. And through every single one of those cycles, there's a different need. So, for example, at the age of 18 or 19, as I leave school, there's no need for me to go out and purchase a house because I'm living with my parents. They're paying for my studies, they're paying for my food. But here comes a 32-year-old that's probably married now for the last 5 years. He's obviously looking for a home. He's looking to support a family and so on. So just as a small example, that the needs of everyone changes. So I think the pertinent question that we need to ask is, when looking at financial planning, what parts of the life does a financial plan cover? So is it only aimed at specific sectors of your life, or does it start at one point and end at one point?
Wow, Abdu-Raof, I think today you're asking me many heavily loaded questions, and it's actually a very, very good question, Abdu-Raof. When we look at the ones economically active years, and there's a cycle that we go through, and there's a graph that we normally have where you have the baseline and how people move when they get their first job, they get married, and then their first child, buy their first home, and then they dip below the baseline. And unfortunately in South Africa, 96% of people remains below that baseline once life really starts kicking in. And a good financial planner and a good financial plan will try and mitigate that dip and try and keep you as a client above the baseline. And actually, when you go through those finance sapping years of your life, that you actually stay above the line and in fact even build your portfolio above the line. However, as I said earlier on, in doing that, you need to have a good financial plan. Now, maybe at this juncture, because you ask me where do we start and where do we end, and we start at, as you always say, at birth, or at the time when you start working, and we take it right through till the day that Allah takes us away from this dunya. Now, firstly, when we start with the process, now we've dealt with how to identify a financial planner, and once you've now identified the financial planner and you're now going to sit down with the financial planner, the first meeting with the financial planner would be a meeting, or as I always call it, an interview. An interview where you as a client have a chat, a frank chat with your advisor or the potential advisor in assessing, is this the advisor or the company that I would want to place my financial well-being? I want to place this into this company or this individual's hands. And it's something that you need to interrogate the financial advisor and the processes that they use to get you to a certain point. And then from the advisor's point of view, the advisor needs to ascertain, do I have the necessary skills to be able to satisfy this client's needs? And what is the process that I'm going to go through with this client? And also for the advisor then to ascertain, is this the type of client that I will be able to satisfy their needs, and is it the client that we would want to take through this journey? And I think it's a two-way discussion at that point in time. Once you've now decided that, look, both of you are happy with each other and with the process, we then say, okay, this is the process, this is how we charge our fees, we go through all those type of things. And that needs to be discussed in the first meeting. Okay, so now both parties have now agreed on the process and they're happy with the necessary skills and the process that we are going to go through, we then look at the follow-up meeting, and that is when the real work starts. Then what the advisor needs to do is to gather all the information from the client. Get all the information from the client. If it's a working client, what does he have at work? What investments has he got at that point in time? Get a background discussion as to the family, where do you come from, what are your needs, you know, where do you want to go, what are your objectives, your financial objectives in life, are you married, what is, and this is also a very important point, Abdu-Raof, that I'm of the firm belief that when you do a financial plan, and if you are a married couple, if you are married, that both husband and wife should go to the financial advisor. Because many a times we find that we sit with one party and we explain the process and we explain everything to the one party, and both agree to this, that and the other. The one party then goes home and tries to explain the process and explain the meeting to the other half.
And we all know that ultimately the wives are the ministers of finance of the home. So, you know, if I think back, the household was always run, the finances of the household was always run by the father. And I think in the old days, it was the fact that everything of the finance side was kept private to the father's knowledge only. And everyone would be pleasantly surprised if something happens to the head of the household, the father. And now you suddenly sit and you find out, but I didn't know that this asset was owned by us, or that that investment was made so many years ago, and that this amount of money is available. Or the other side of the coin, that there's nothing available and there's debt that needs to be covered. So I think in essence you've covered basically a lot in that statement.
No, Abdu-Raof, what you just said is so important, you know, and wow, how financial planning has evolved, and the sharing of knowledge and the educating of our clients in a financial sense, because back in the day, people generally didn't know what is unit trust, what is a share, what is a property unit trust, what is offshore markets, how does it, people didn't know this, in what is financial planning. But alhamdulillah, we have progressed and we have evolved since then. So we are talking to a more educated and a more informed audience nowadays. So Abdu-Raof, at that point in time of the gathering of the information, it is very important that you cover everything of the family, the background, your aspirations as an individual, where do you see yourself financially, where do you see your family financially, and what it is that you want to achieve over those years. Then an advisor needs to take all those things into consideration in developing his plan.
That is a mouthful and an earful, Mohammed. We're going to take a break, and after the break we'll continue with this conversation. You're watching the Finance Forum with myself, Abdu-Raof Hanslo, and my guest in the hot seat this week is Mr. Mohammed Jaffer from Mojaf Financial Services, and we're speaking financial planning, and this is part 3 of the series in financial planning. Stay tuned, we'll be back soon.